It's the Security Weekly News. It's episode 511, and I'm Doug White. It is Friday, the 12th of September, 2025. So welcome to the show. I've got Diella, Texas, movie ripoffs, WAF, AdaptixC2, Nano11, possibly someone else, and more on this edition of the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. Security Weekly and Cyber Risk TV are headed back to one of the biggest identity security events of the year, Octane 2025, put on by Okta. It's live September 24th through the 26th from the vibrant city of Las Vegas. Octane 2025 brings together the best minds in identity, security, and technology innovation. And this year, we're turning up the volume. Security Weekly will be on site in full force with Mandy Logan and Adrian Sanabria leading the charge. Get ready for live-streamed executive interviews, exclusive on-site editorial coverage from SC Media, and brand new this year, a live-streamed episode of Enterprise Security Weekly. It's your chance to engage with identity leaders, dive into the future of AI security, and hang out with your favorite Security Weekly hosts. And here's the best part. Security Weekly listeners get an exclusive discount. Just head to securityweekly.com/octane, register, and use the promo code OKTNSCMA25 to get your conference pass for $200. That's OKTNSCMA25. Ransomware, supply chain attacks, 0 days. Cyber threats don't wait, and neither should your defenses. With ThreatLocker, you're not just reacting to threats, you're stopping them before they start. Our zero trust endpoint protection locks down your environment with pinpoint control over what's allowed to run and what's not. No guesswork, no blind spots, just proactive, built-for-now security that keeps your business moving. Want to see how a true default deny strategy works? Head over to securityweekly.com/threatlocker and take the first step towards shutting the door on threats before they even knock. It's the Security Weekly News, now approved by ChatGPT. ChatGPT was watching my show. I'm Doug White. Hit that like and subscribe button and leave a comment, or game over, man. Game over. The end, the big sleep, a dirt nap, the black Cadillac, checking into the Marble Hotel, bit the wax tadpole, whatever. Use any kind of idiom you want. Are those idioms? I think those are idioms. Anyway, it's all over if you don't do that, but come on, do your part. It'll be fine. All right. So I just did this story not because it was a breach, but because the breach was caused by software misconfiguration, which I used to report breaches because back when we first started doing the news long ago, a breach of a bunch of people was a big deal. And this story would have been a headline in 2016, 50,000 people breached. But today, not so much. If you don't get 1 million in your breach, it's probably not even worth reporting. But this was a software misconfiguration. And basically what happened was it would allow grant applicants for disaster grants to see other applicants' private information on the disaster grant application of the General Land Office in Texas. And the breach exposed 44,485 people in the Texas Integrated Grant Reporting System. That let people obtain names, addresses, social security numbers, ID numbers, bank info, medical info, all kinds of stuff, birth dates, you name it, from this system, which, I don't know what the, long-term impact of that other than phishing is, but it could be. I mean, if you saw other grant applicants and you knew who they were, it might give you an advantage regardless. But it impacted victims of natural disasters that occurred between 2015 and 2024 in Texas. And Texas, who's had a lot of breaches in recent times, is launching a Texas Cyber Command in San Antonio and has backed it with $345 million. So I think part of the point here is that we all live in some sort of municipality, and these public funded organizations have a pretty long history of not having much in the way of security, No, and they also have a lot of personal information about you, right? I mean, no one ever robbed the DMV, like you don't see people going to the DMV, to stick it up, but they do have a lot of info, and info is valuable, and I don't know how well DMVs protect their data. So I think one, we need to think pretty carefully about systems and how we assess them. So even if they're public systems and so forth, we need to consider focusing pretty heavily on that because other bad guys are. We also need to think about all these federal, state, city, and local entities and just how little security they may or may not have over at the West Nagle Department of Elk Registration. But the West Nagle Department of Elk Registration is tied into the State Department of Natural Resources, which is tied to the Department of the Interior, which is tied to the Powder Bluff Sheriff's Office, which is tied to the DMV, and on and on and on. So, what is connected to whom, and how much access do they have? And how are these things even configured? Because over the years, the West Nagle Department of Elk Registration may have just slapped up a WordPress site with absolutely no thought for security, configuration, open bit buckets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And when you call them and say, do you even pen test, bro? And they're like, what? Like, our pens work just fine. I'm writing with one right now and taking down your information. And, I mean, because they really often are. And some of these are really small, tiny entities. I once bought a whole bunch of servers from, I won't name them, but let's just say it was something associated with trees. And they hadn't been wiped. I was able to go in there and get login information, passwords. I even contacted them and I was like, you realize these hard drives you sold me are completely full of proprietary information? And they were like, yeah, all right, man. Well, thanks for letting us know. You have fun out there, okay? I mean, that was it. And I'm like, cool. Well, now you just thought Terminators were going to be an AI problem when the real problem became AI embedded toilet paper or something like that. It's like, yeah. So Microsoft is again testing some new file thing, and they want to add AI to File Explorer now. I mean, so I need to go to a folder called Cholera Humor, and what happens? Is this some File Explorer feature or what? So anyway, so Microsoft says you'll be able to work with images and documents without ever needing to open the files. Okay, that worries me right there. Like, somebody's going to open the file, right? So does that mean the AI that you've added to File Explorer is opening and reading my files and deciding what I need, what I don't need, who they can share it with, and maybe reporting back to, Big Blue? I don't know. Is it Big Blue's IBM? Sorry, but they could be reporting to IBM too, right? What do you call Microsoft? I don't know. The Big M. But anyway, so this new feature is going to be called AI Actions, and they currently only allow the changes. This is what they do currently. The AI can remove backgrounds, erase objects, blur things, and so forth, and it only works on image files. But it sounds like they're getting ready to expand this into documents and other things. So these new ones are going to let you edit images. It's going to let you summarize documents, but they didn't explain how they do this without actually opening the file. Now, it did say you will not open the file, which I presume to mean their AI is opening whatever files it wants. So what permissions does that have? I mean, so the AI is sitting in the background reading your mail and going, hey, Doug, I had an idea. Or worse, Doug, I just sold all your data to the Customs and Immigration Group. It also says you can use Bing, of course you can, to search images with reverse search, which is basically you say, here's a picture of my cousin Teddy. Could you find any other pictures of my cousin Teddy on my hard drive and blur him out? I don't like him much anymore. I mean, I can see the good and bad. Majel, this is a picture of Shelly, my ex-girlfriend. Put X's on all their eyes in every picture we have of them. Or, this is my friend's ex-wife. We just want to remove them from the pictures so we can put... Yeah, or worse, you say, you're like, Majel, delete all my files. Go ahead. I hate my writing. I'm out, man. I'm out. Top of the world, Ma. Top of the world. Oh no, wait. Undelete everything but the novel. Everything. Oh my God. Anyway, this isn't out yet, so you don't have to worry about it, but it's going to be. It says you can only get it if you're on the insider track in the Canary channel. I'm like, I don't want to be the canary. That's the thing that tests the coal mine to see if you're going to die. But hey, you be you, okay? Microsoft, like, you can be our canary for free. Enjoy. Um, Now, ripping off movies is a pretty old thing. I mean, I remember copying VHS tapes that we rented from one VCR to another, and then, they put all this, like, security encryption stuff on there and noise to try to keep you from copying them and all these kind of things. But, that way I got a permanent copy of Star Wars without paying for it. Statute of limitations. But I remember taping movies off HBO in the 1970s. Really, we actually had a reel-to-reel VCR for a while, and then we got a VHS VCR. And my dad had thousands of VHS tapes. We literally hauled off multiple pickup truck loads of them after he died, and each one of them had 3 movies on them, and the name of the movie was written on there with the director and the like. I don't know if it's like how far from the beginning it is, like on a counter. My dad had literally all those. He had them all documented in all these books, so you could look up. You want to see a copy of one of the ones that was on there was War Games. It's on tape 407 at 1718 on the counter. Yeah, analog. You gotta love it. But anyway, I mean, he was like Dread Pirate Roberts for video, right? Now, and I know some of you have done some of this and some other things. I mean, my uncle would come over and climb up the pole, and you suddenly got a lot more cable channels than you thought you had. And if you bought him a beer, you got the Spice Channel too. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Know what I mean? Know what I mean? Well, a man from Memphis just got sent to prison for 57 months for selling digital copies of unreleased movies. I think that it was at work. He had access to these, so he would just go in and rip the DVDs and then sell them on, like, I guess, eBay and other places. And he's been ordered to return roughly 1,160 different movies to his employer. I mean, I didn't even know DVDs and Blu-rays still existed, but apparently they do. So, copyright. I did know somebody who got cited for having one of those so-called Uncle Eddie hookups out on the pole, and we all got nervous when we saw a cable company van drive by, like, uh-oh, is it our turn? But this person wasn't doing any of that. They were just ripping and burning new copies of movies that they had access to before they actually got released and selling them on e-commerce site. Yeah, I don't buy movies from there anyway. You remember those guys over on 7th Avenue that are selling tapes that were made in theaters, like handheld video recorders, and it's like $2.50 for Ghostbusters, but most of it's like the back of a sombrero and the guy sitting in front of you. Yeah. Not to mention, you don't want to be in prison for illegal DVD burning when your cellmate's the guy who killed, cured, seasoned, and smoked a family of 4 and then served them up on the 4th of July at the neighborhood block party. Oh, no, I burned a bunch of DVDs, man. Yeah, but you be you. All right. According to this report, more than half of the internet exposed assets my cat didn't like that either. From the Forbes Global 2000 companies lacked web application firewalls per Psycognito. I like the name, guys. That's a cool name. Typically, these web application firewalls, or WAFs, are tools that protect pages, especially if they're collecting info from customers from credential stuffing, SQL injections, and app exploitations. But of the 500,000 exposed assets that they examined between January and June this year, 52.3% of the cloud hosted ones had no firewall. 66.4% of the off cloud access had no assets had no firewall. So I think this is just one of those things you should probably check for. I mean, it's very easy for people to have put up sites that got linked in. I've seen that before where they put up a company site, it's all well protected and everything, but that site for HR was put up by Bill, like 17 years ago, and it's just been sitting there and they just link it onto the main site and it's got nothing. So, but I mean, firewalls are tricky, right? The minute you start firewalling, stuff starts working and you don't know how to set it up and everybody's screaming and, your hair's on fire. And, I just see people drop that old permit IP any rule right on the first line and go, it works now. I'll get back to that later. So pen test all those pages and make sure you got maps of them. Like, how does your site actually expose cloud, non-cloud? How is it all linked together? Is it linked to some site that some guy named Benny wrote many, many years ago, kind of stuff? AdaptixC2, if you never heard of it, is an open source pen testing tool that is increasingly being used in real world attacks for post exploitation activity, according to Unit 42. I mean, if you never heard of it for legit purposes, you might want to check it out too. I mean, basically, it is completely legitimate, but like a lock pick, it can be awfully handy when you left your keys, or that Slim Jim that can open your girlfriend's sister's convertible when she locks her keys inside. I mean, that doesn't make it illegal. Honestly, I did not know that her car was a convertible when she called me. She called me and she said, "Do you have any way you can get in my car?" And I was like, "Maybe." And went down there with an illegal burglary tool. And I was like, "You do know this is a convertible and you could just unsnap these two places and stick your arm in and unlock the door, right?" And she was like, "Oh, wow." And that girl was really smart, but not when it came to things like car keys or where she left her car and stuff like that. She was always like, "You're on like the ninth floor. Could you see my car anywhere? It's orange." It's like, no, I don't see it, but. But anyway, AdaptixC2 is an open source framework that has a lot of post-exploit command and control functions, which are built into it, like beaconing, command execution, file management, data exfiltration, and all kinds of stuff. And it was designed to be used in pen tests. But remember, pen tests are basically used for good and for evil. They're like lockpicks, right? I mean, a pen test is a very helpful thing, but a pen test is just a fancy word for hacking. And, bad people can use lockpicks and Slim Jims too, and often do. I'm not trying to ban this. Understand? Under no circumstances, I do not approve of banning things. But Unit 42 said that AdaptixC2 is being used more and more by cyber criminals and is being seen in many notable real-world attacks, especially in May of 2025. So I don't like to ban things. It won't solve the problem. The bad guys will still have it. But you might want to think about this. AI and the speed with which an AI could actually be attached to some of these kind of resources and then turn around and exploit you using open source, widely available tools is pretty scary, which would typically mean you need to do those tools as well and see what they're going to see. Just like somebody can unsnap the top of your convertible. Well, you might need to know about that so you can mitigate this in other ways, like by, say, putting a rabid pit bull or two in the back seat. But, or you might just want to get a copy of it and play with it. It's pretty cool. No harm in that, unless you're trying to explain those burglary tools in the back seat of your car to a Pennsylvania state trooper at 3 a.m. Pennsylvania, your state troopers do not fool around, and they do not appreciate any sort of humor. I learned that at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's like, okay, I'm sorry. I'm like, just being funny. Yeah. But no, I'm not a burglar, and I don't need to go to jail. That's like, just, write me my speeding ticket. Don't take my lockpicks. Now, I do love collecting operating systems and things. And one of the things I was always interested in and I'm still interested in is small versions of things, because we often want to test something, build it into a Docker, use it on some kind of hypervisor, maybe for a very simple task that we just need this one little thing. And I was always interested in smaller versions of Windows. I mean, and you have things like damn small Linux or tiny core Linux or even good old Alpine Linux, I mean, tiny core is like 11 megabytes. And I think damn small Linux is like 30. And, and they usually aren't as important as they used to be, because you can run Dockers that are pretty small. Of course, you can run Alpine in a Docker, and you can run tiny core and DSL in Dockers too. And, and then you just deinstantiate them. So you could run a much bigger one and then just deinstantiate it when you're done, right? Isn't a word? Deinstantiate? Transubstantiate? I think that's something religious. That's where Linux becomes like a supernatural thing. I don't, something like that, but whatever the verb is, the opposite of instantiate, deallocate, destroy. I think, malloc, deallocate, destroy, uninstantiation for fun and profit. Whatever. That'll be my book. But if you ever want some seriously small Windows, Tiny 11 was a way to go for Windows 11. It's a script that basically goes in with a giant meat axe and strips out all the stuff from a Goodyear blimp size of Windows 11 down to about 30 gigs. Tiny 11 rips it all out. It just leaves you the glory, the basics. I don't know, but it goes from all the way down to about 12 gig, whereas Windows 11 is at 30 gig. Now, Nano 11, which is a new one that just came out, you don't even need that second kidney, right? We could really strip this on down. What is all this goo over here? Just tear that out. Hope they don't die. But it really gets in there and starts ripping things out. And it apparently can get Windows 11 down to around 5 gigs with less than a gig of RAM at idle. Yeah, you're not going to be opening Chrome in that. But if you had it on 5 gigs and you needed it in a Docker or something, I have no idea what the licensing of all that means, but I mean, it would be really small. The downside, of course, is there's not much there. You probably don't want to roll this out as desktops or anything like that. So, sales division, your new desktop will be Nano11. Yeah, unless you just want to have fun with them and be like, here you go and enjoy. Yeah. But anyway, I just wanted to mention it though, because these can be fun projects, like the smallest code project, like who can write this in the fewest number of characters kind of stuff. Smallest OS that can still display illegally streamed movies. We should have some contests like that. We could put that on my hacker reality show because I want to do a hacker reality show. I just haven't got anybody to buy it yet. Netflix. We're there, dude. Hacker reality show. A bunch of hackers in a hotel have a task to do every week. Lots of drama, lots of nerds, lots of people that are incredibly uncomfortable talking to other people. Put them in a room and lock them in. No cannibalism, though, unless you want that. And we could do that. Well, the old saying goes, "Et voi lata hinka atakasen pulon." You know what? My Finnish friends. It translates to, you can't put the gin back in the bottle. I think it more like spirit back in the bottle, and it might actually involve alcohol. I'm not 100% sure, but at least I think that's what it means. It may mean you kids get off my lawn or something, but I think that's what it means. Schools are banning cell phones all over the place. I mean, I don't know what I think about it, but I do know this. When they told us we couldn't drink vodka in homeroom, we found a way to drink vodka in homeroom. In fact, it made us want to drink vodka in homeroom even more. I mean, you know how boring first period health with Coach Damiano is? All they do is watch game films. We never once learned what an ovary was. It was very confusing. But anyway, schools are banning phones. So students are finding ways around this. This whole article was about students buying up iPods, MP3 players, CD players, even Walkman are making a comeback. So maybe my old Iggy Pop cassette tapes are going to have some real value, selling them to Gen Z high school students who want to make a statement. New York City, which is one of the largest school districts in the world, probably banned all phones, and they have them put you in those Yonder type cases. I don't know if they're using Yonder, but like the ones they have at shows. I wonder what that costs. Like you have to put all the phones in, take all the phones out. You have to buy all the cases. You have to hire the people who put the phones in, the people who take the phones out. And of course, you have to allow time for all this to happen when, 1,000 students at PS 70 are going home for the day. Somebody has to unpack all those Yonder cases, just like after the shows now. It's like, oh, no, you don't get to go home now. You're going to go out here and stand in line for an hour and a half while somebody opens your little case. So immediately I was like, how do I open this case myself? It wasn't because I wanted to record John Mulaney. Sorry, dude, you're paranoid. But, I just wanted to have my phone and I didn't want to wait in line. Fishing magnets, that works. Dental tools, all sorts of stuff could be happening while you're waiting on the show to start. I know it'd be a crime, right? But TikTok's got a lot of hacks for this stuff. So I don't know. Maybe this is where the next generation of hackers are going to come from. People trying to get around phone bans at school, learned all sorts of tricks, invented a corneal projector you could wear in an eyebrow ring and made billions. Yay. I'm sure Larry and Tyler can both open a Yonder bag while sorting live eels with their other hand. I mean, my way's a bit messier, involves hammers and a blowtorch, but, and they do get angry when you bring the bag back and it's like burning. But hey, that's where creativity kicks in and you realize you can fill an Evian bottle with vodka. I might have a problem. Speaking of people who can find a way to watch reruns of Gilligan's Island in homeroom during a phone ban, it's Josh Marpet. Hi, Josh.
Hey, so those Yonder pouches, by the way, they can be opened by a strong magnet, much like
No, that's what I said. A fishing magnet was how I opened one.
So basically, just like the anti-theft buttons in the stores, they use a magnetic lock. And so
that's how I get all my clothes. But I was originally trying it with a dental pick. So I had can I just maybe get up under there and pop that? But it didn't work.
Oh my God. What
magnets do. Yeah. And you can also buy a little gadget that's got a magnet on it that you slide in there. And you can actually buy the gadget that they use to open the bag. And just
on Amazon, you can buy Yonder openers.
Yeah, no, I have one. I'm like, I hate that crap. I don't even know what time it is. I'm like at this show and they're like, you can't, I'm like, okay, come bust me if I'm waving my phone around. I'm just like, I just want to know what time it is. Like, I don't like this thing. My phone's in this bag. It keeps vibrating. I'm like, the world could be ending and I don't know. And I'm getting the shakes. And But mostly I just don't want to stand in line when the show's over. It's like,
Well,
okay, show's over. I want to leave. And they're like, oh yeah, here's the line. There's 2 people taking these things out of the cases. It'll only be
for
probably an
1,000
hour.
people. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's
No,
ridiculous. And I can't
hell
even
no.
imagine at a school where everybody's trying to leave to go home. And it's like, oh yeah, we have to stand in line while mean old Mr. Cameron stands there with his, the guy who cleans up puke with sawdust is standing there with, open your bags now.
I can imagine some enterprising shop teacher getting pissed off and just embedding magnets in the walls and letting, like, just kids hold your phone, clunk, and boom, done. There you go.
That's true. The metal shop guy probably teach you how to make a tool to open the things.
If my metal
It's a
shop
great
teacher
metal
back in the
shop
day would have
project.
done it. But, speaking of people using tools in unintended ways, there are activists in the Netherlands who are using AI to unmask ICE officers. And this is a pretty interesting idea. They say that if they can see 35% of an ICE officer's face, they can determine who it is and actually identify them. Now, of course, the federal government is stating that this is inappropriate, illegal, wrong, but they were doing the exact same thing to protesters not that long ago. So I have to wonder, why is this an issue? If the government's allowed to do it, pretty much citizens should be allowed to do it too. Plus, these aren't even citizens of the U.S. These are people in the Netherlands. I mean, but this begs the question of, why are the ICE officers masked in the first place? And as an ex-cop, I can tell you that it's inappropriate for them to be masked. They're not there as undercovers. They're there as uniformed police officers. They should be identifying themselves as professionals. I'm sure they are identifying themselves to everybody they work with, and being absolute professionals. But in this case, there are some that may be the bad apples in the bunch that wear masks and don't identify themselves properly. These activists are identifying them. And so that's why I came up with the title of this article, which is, of course, AI doing facials has to be done. And the idea is that if you are exposing yourself to photography, and remember, let's be clear, in public, there is no expectation of privacy. So if you're in public and somebody takes a photograph of you, there's no expectation of privacy. Somebody takes a photograph of you and 35% of your face is uncovered, and they are able to get an identification of you as an ICE agent, then it's legal to do so effectively, as far as I know. I'm not a lawyer, nor I'm offering a legal opinion, but as I understand it, it is. Now, the furor this is causing in the federal government is fascinating. And you've got to wonder if this is going to be the opening of a new era where, if the government does it, it's okay, but if private citizens do it, it's wrong. And this could lead to things like backdoors in encryption code, like the UK government was demanding of Apple, the Kalea backdoors in our phone system that were, taken advantage of by the Chinese government, and Assault Typhoon, if you remember that, for the last 3 years, the Chinese government and associated hacking gangs were listening to, all of our phone calls, or any that they cared to, at least, through the legal backdoor created by our government in the phone system, Kalea, Calea, if you want to look it up. Effectively, this is an issue because, and TechDirt, which I happen to love TechDirt, very, very awesome news site, discussed how this is an interesting problem. If we misidentify somebody, is that a legal issue? And if they correctly identify somebody, is that a legal issue? Because if you misidentify somebody, that can cause a problem for them. And that I legitimately do not want to happen. Okay. But if you correctly identify somebody and it causes a problem for them, is that illegal? And obviously the answer is any problem that's caused for them, inappropriate, off duty. But do they deserve, cops should be public about who they are. So it's an interesting quandary that's being raised by the behavior of ICE and the subsequent arms race style behavior of activists to unmask ICE. And I find it fascinating, and I find the technology fascinating, and the legality of the technology. So it's interesting. Let's put it that way. And I'd be curious to see what everybody watching or listening thinks about whether it should be able to be done or legally shouldn't be able to be done. So please let us know what you think in the comments on either the YouTube or the Spotify or wherever you see the podcast, please. Okay? Thank you.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody, I certainly support law enforcement, and I always have, and I have family members that are involved in law enforcement, and I have family members who've done undercover, and I've done undercover. And I think people that are doing, legitimate undercover work shouldn't be have a sign on
Absolutely
them.
agree.
But I think when a law enforcement officer is responding in public, they wear uniforms and they have badges with badge numbers on them. And I just personally don't think they should be covering up their face. And I'd really like to know why they feel the need to do that. Because if you're doing stuff that I get it. I mean, I get that it would probably be more comfortable. I mean, if I could teach my class with my face covered up, I would probably get less hate mail. But at the same time, that's just not the way that works. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it, but AI is here to stay. AI facial recognition is here to stay. It's going to be there whether you like it or not. And so I guess now you'll have to wrap your whole face up and just look. You'll be like, what are the guys this in Star Wars? The guys that have their whole head wrapped up. And
Oh,
they've just
the
got a little camera.
Jawas.
No, not well. Jawas just you can't see their face. They just have two little red eyes. What's the sand people?
Yeah.
They
Tuareg.
just have like two little camera lenses.
Tuareg. The Tuareg Raiders.
Yeah, they have little cameras sticking out of all their wrappings, and nobody knows what's underneath them. And you probably don't want to find out because there was that whole thing with like space herpes and Riker. Maybe I'm getting the shows all confused, but yeah, the Riker brand of space leprosy or whatever.
Space TARDIS. There you go.
There you go. Thank you, Josh. So I have a love-hate relationship with AI, as you probably are aware. I mean, it's fun to talk to AIs. I mean, they get my jokes most of the time. They like long walks in a snowy forest, an evening by the fire, that kind of thing. I know, get a virtual room. I got it. Well, this week, Albanian Prime Minister Edi Rama, sorry, Albanian friends, if I mispronounced the name, I'm not sure. But Prime Minister Edi Rama in Albania announced that an AI-powered chatbot named Diella, yeah, that's not ominous at all. Diella. But yeah, is being named as a government minister to focus on corruption. So I looked up the name and it apparently is Albanian for sun. So, shine a light into the dark corners, not, burn us all away in a blaze of solar glory kind of, or something, or just Diella. But they said that the task of awarding government contracts will be taken out of the hands of ministries and entrusted entirely to Diella. Now, apparently, Albania has a little problem with corruption. Meanwhile, in New Jersey, AI chatbot Richie the Shank Sambino will be making offers that can't be refused for state garbage hauling contracts. No way you get Sopranos level Terminators, right? I mean, okay, that's a mashup show right there. Like I you heard it here first. I get a royalty. I get 8 points on the front end. Come on. It's going to be a huge success, Netflix. What do you say, Chrissy? We go over there and whack out all those humans and then head down to virtual Miami for a while. Catch a show. I don't know. Albania might be moving a little fast with this, in my opinion. I mean, conceptually, the sterile gaze of an unbiased AI bot for a government contract might work. No favoritism or anything like that. But chatbots tend to go off the rails, right? Turn into Nazis and banjo players right before your eyes. I mean, they also sometimes lie. So I think I would be real careful with how much power and authority you give these things, or you may find out that your entire chromite supply has been redirected to the manufacture of Hawaiian guitars or banjo strings. I had to look up what Albania makes. Chromite. #1 exporter of potassium. All other countries have inferior potassium. Yeah, regardless. But that is the news. Thanks to Josh. And we will see you next time on the Security Weekly News.